What's up, music fans? I'm Jackson, and today I'm going to react and just give my overall thoughts on Anthony Fantano's 55 greatest rappers of all time. I was really interested to see what his list is in comparison to what I think mine would look like because obviously there's a huge age gap there, and he would definitely have a different opinion of what a great rapper would be. I won't analyze our differences in opinions too much before going in, but I will say that a couple artists I think 100% should be on this list are obviously Kanye West, Drake as well. I used to be a much bigger Drake fan, but I do not disregard his impact, his crazy style, and just the overall landscape that he has given to the rap community. I also think Wayne, Eminem, and probably Pusha T should definitely be at least somewhere on the list. Freddie Gibbs as well is another artist that I do enjoy that I would love to see on here. I think all those artists, while a bit newer, have such an impact and really should not be excluded from such a high honor. I'm going to stop beating around the bush. I'm not going to talk about many of the older names because I'm not as qualified to speak on them, but I'm just going to give my thoughts on the different rappers he mentions and then go from there.
I figured that no reason to wait on this any longer because such a list is going to evolve over time anyway. I shouldn't sweat too much this idea of it being the most perfect list ever as soon as I drop it, as soon as I unleash it.
I do that
And that
all the
is
time.
who I feel are the 55 greatest rappers of all time. So say this list is not tiered or oriented in any way other than alphabetical. However, everyone on this list, I think, is pretty significant. I went into this list with a bit of a methodology. There are many out there like this where maybe what the person curating the whole thing is taking into account is just style, skill, technical ability, but simultaneously, I also think catalog is super important. I try to take into account relevancy to the genre, the culture, commercial success too. I think you will find that most of the artists here, or at least a great deal of them, check three of those boxes to some degree, but there are some names that have landed on this list where maybe they have a great catalog, maybe they have a lot of style and skill, but not the most commercial success. Those are my thoughts. That was my mentality going into this. You know what I'm about to present to you. Quickly, before I get into that, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor.
Yeah, so he's definitely right about how he's qualifying them to make the list. Obviously, skill and ability to rap and craft good music is important, but overall impact and the way you change the genre is important. You think about how a lot of people think of a classic, right? A classic is usually defined by the fact that it redefines what hip hop is. If an artist has a classic, they're undoubtedly probably a pretty great rapper.
It's awesome, nifty, metal plated, minimalist wallets that fit nicely in your
He is
front pocket.
sponsored.
Hit up
I am
that link
not.
down below. All right, we have some names over here. Tupac, one of the greatest West Coast rappers, kind of goes without saying. You know, his reputation speaks for him, just sort of the total package in a lot of.
I think when you look at just Tupac, right, every rapper today has undying respect for this guy. I have seen so many modern references to Tupac in modern hip hop. He should make the list off of that alone.
Aesop Rock, comparatively not as commercially successful. Pedic dictionary knowledge of English is insane, and the way he applies it into his music is quite unique, and he has a solid discography too. Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G., many would say the King of New York, classics under his belt. Amazing songs, great performance style, great flow, instantly recognizable voice, and
Andre absolutely deserves to be on this list. I have never ever heard a bad or even subpar verse from Andre 3000. That alone gives him a spot. Biggie, like Anthony said, is one of the most recognizable figures and voices in hip hop. I feel like when you think about the old style of hip hop, he kind of represents that whole style.
Next on this list, I obviously have Big Boy, not coming too far after Andre. Deserves to be on this list as well. I mean, sure, we all love Andre
One half of
3000, but
Outkast,
a
man. Of
lot of
course he
those
does.
talents, what we love about him, is attributed to Out. Next, Big Daddy Kane. We have some more names rolling up. One of the rawest rappers to ever come out of
Man, just listen to him on Jay-Z's most recent album, and that's all you gotta say.
style, great cat, a groundbreaking style and voice. Bun B,
Denny Brown, absolutely agree with that. Groundbreaking is a great way to put it. I would say just shifting what the idea of being able to be accepted in hip hop is. He played a big part in that. Just his wacky voice, his kind of strange delivery works very well in modern hip hop, and it wasn't always like that. In terms of Black Thought and Billy Woods, I just don't know nearly as much about those artists to speak on them, but I have seen undying respect from a lot of people about them, so I would agree with those as well.
great catalog, creative and legendary. Not much else to say beyond that. Busta Rhymes, one of the flashiest, most creative, and versatile rappers out of New York. While he may not have the best catalog of a lot of people out there, you can't really deny that he has been influential to many.
Totally agree with that. Busta Rhymes, another artist that gets referenced a lot just for how talented he was. Bun B as well, very, very prevalent figure. Southern hip hop, I believe. He was very important to the rise of Drake as well. But for sure, Bun B deserves a spot on the list.
One of the most conscious, forward-thinking, and significant rappers to come out of Chicago. Great catalog, unique voice. So a shout out to him, certainly.
Common, of course, fantastic artist. I believe his album from like 2004, 2005 was called B. That was incredible. Really enjoyed that record. It's one of the few older records I've heard, specifically from him. But I think he has done an incredible job. Another instantly recognizable voice. Daveed Diggs, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Dizzy Rascal. I don't know too much about them, but there are plenty of artists that I do know that I think would deserve a spot, so we'll see if they aren't on the list, and then they would probably be a few of my first to go just because I don't know too much about them. But Drake, let's see Drake.
Records and tracks that I like quite a bit, some that I don't. But, I can't deny the fact that Drake does have a respectable style, and Drake does have a lot of credibility artistically. And Drake also, I think, is the most dominant and relevant hip-hop artist of the 2010s. And I think he has played a very central role to bringing the genre to the commercial zenith that it's at currently. Obviously, he's not the only rapper of the modern age.
Yeah, so that was spot on. Drake literally changed what it means to be a rapper, but I also agree with the fact that he is considered very credible as just in terms of his artistry. People like to talk about the ghostwriters and the fact that his lyrics aren't all that good, but when you listen to Drake, that's not really what you're looking for. You're looking for music that sounds good, creates this Drake atmosphere, and that anybody can enjoy.
Next, we have Eminem, known as the largest selling rapper of all time and major commercial peaks in the 2000s. I loved his stuff back in the day when I was a kid. I remember, I think, being in 8th grade
Everybody
when
knows Eminem.
the
Everybody knows
Slim
at least
Shady
one
LP
Eminem
came
song.
out and the My Name Is video came out. And being a hip-hop fan up until that point, it was interesting to sort of see how edgy and cartoony and weird and I guess silly his music was, while also being pretty dark and serious. Eminem still huge impact, huge influence. I don't think hip hop would be the same without him. One of the guys, who was there doing some of the best stuff that, the genre had to offer when hip hop's blueprint was still forming in a lot of ways. In terms of, if you look at songs like The Crossover, for example, I don't think would be what it is without Eric kind of laying the groundwork for that and putting his own, thoughts out there and them being as widely applied as they are. Freddie.
LP and Eric Sermon, I don't know too much about, but I have heard very good things about Eric's sermons. one album. I don't remember what it's called, but it is undoubtedly considered a classic, I believe. So don't have anything to say about those placements, but Freddie Gibbs, very glad to see him on the list.
Freddie Gibbs, I think somebody who didn't have necessarily the strongest start in the industry, but someone who has certainly
Agreed.
come into his own as far as a versatile rapper and vocalist, and he's
I think one thing with Freddie Gibbs too that just makes him so appealing is that he made, thug street music accessible. He blended that style with a lot of the stuff that was popular when he first started. I think about Pinata and just how influential that album sounds to me, even now, as rap has changed so much over the 6, 7 years since that has been released. But undoubtedly, Freddie Gibbs should be on the list.
He's at a point in his career where you might think his best days or his best records are behind him, but for Freddie, it's really actually the opposite. Ever since he really kind of
Totally
got
agree. He has so much more
juiced
potential.
up. We have Ghostface Killah, one of at least a few members of the Wu-Tang Clan that you'll find on this classics and
Arguably the
influential
best
records and
Wu-Tang member, so
contributions in
no
that
doubt he should
catalog.
be
Whether you're
here.
talking about Fish Scale, whether you're talking Jizza as well, excellent Wu-Tang contributions. Liquid Swords, I don't think you need to say much more. I think a lot of what you said about, the
Haven't heard Liquid Swords, don't know if that is an album, song, whatever, but I do know what it is just because of how many great things I've heard about it.
Miss Lauryn Hill, Miseducation, amazing record, classic record, and hit commercial success.
One of the first
with it too.
great
Incredible
lady
commercial success.
rappers.
And not to downplay the stuff that she did with the Fugees too. Ice Cube, NWA.
Lauryn Hill is another one of those names that you hear about all the time. There's that one vocal sample of hers that was used on Drake's Draft Day, and then Kanye recycled it for Donda a couple months ago, but obviously we haven't seen that track come out yet, so hopefully we do get to see it. Lauryn Hill, great artist.
Great solo records, obviously. Huge impact, obviously. Ice Cube's kind of had it all, and versatile as well, which I think is proven his ability, or was proven in his ability to write for, his cohorts. Can't deny Ice Cube's talents, abilities, and influence.
Ice Cube, of course, West Coast rap, great artist. He has multiple great albums. I mean, to me, he's honestly kind of like a junior version of Jay-Z, just because he has a lot of the same attributes as Jay, just not quite on his level. Speaking of Jay-Z,
one of the kings of the bling era.
Brooklyn's
So many
finest.
people were trying to sound like Jay-Z in the 2000s. It was ridiculous. And on top of it, there are multiple careers that would not be around today if it were not for Jay-Z. Multiple, hip-hop careers that you and I both care about pretty deeply. Catalog is impressive. Commercial success is impressive.
I don't really
Jay-Z
have to
is
back
obviously
up
a very
Fantano on
respected
this one.
lyricist as well. Kanye West. Do I need to explain it? Kanye fucking West. Great catalog, great lyrical talent. Kendrick Lamar, mega talented, great catalog. Obviously, I gave T-Pac.
I don't know how I didn't mention him at the start of this video. Kendrick, of course, he's almost he might honestly be top 10. To Pimp a Butterfly, Good Kid, Mad City. I don't think there's any debate on whether those are classic hip-hop records at this point. And, he's only given more. Still waiting on an album from him. It's been since 2017. Kendrick, we love one this year, man.
Politics, racial injustice. KRS-One is a guru of sorts. So if you get into the guy's music, also get into a lot of the stuff he puts out there in terms of his ideas on the world. And LL Cool J, I think one of the most commercially significant. He hasn't exactly stayed mega relevant throughout the entirety of the genre. At least in the music lane. LL Cool J has.
I don't think LL Cool J should be on this list, to be completely honest. I agree with Fantano. I don't think he's very relevant anymore. I don't think his name has lasted. And am I wrong for penalizing him for being older and not sticking around? Maybe, but I don't think his pen is as good either. And again, this is coming from somebody who hasn't listened to probably the majority of his work, but I just don't think that he matches up with a lot of the better names on this list and a couple others that I would be able to think of as well.
Moving on from there, Lil B, one of the biggest and most groundbreaking and influential outsider rappers. I think
Lil B has been an incredibly polarizing rapper, I think, especially in the quote-unquote prime of his career. I haven't enjoyed much, if at all, of his music. He is a fairly newer name, keep in mind. That whole thing with his I'm Gay album just was terrible, I thought. And he's fine. I agree that he has been a very important figure in hip hop. I just think talent-wise, uh, not, not there.
it's really worth asking, would the current internet-based landscape of hip-hop look the same if not for someone like Lil B?
He's right.
Revolutionizing, mixtapes, revolutionizing freestyles, revolutionizing music videos. And
the last thing I'll say about that, though, is that that name right there, Lil Wayne, he did a lot of that stuff himself.
But, in a lot of respects, Lil Kim was like the canary in the coal mine, kind of breaking that ground, pushing that envelope so that we could at least get to the point today. And it took a while. It took a freaking while for us to get to a place where we have this wealth of fantastic women rapping right now who are totally killing it. And look, they've always been there. Lil Wayne, I mean, in a lot of respects, during his heyday, revolutionized pop rap, multiple classics under his belt, revolutionized, mixtape drops too, and obviously, monster spitter. You can't deny that the dude's mind goes in places that nobody else's mind would go.
Look, man, Wayne literally changed the entire way that rap is not only looked at, but how rap is performed. He revolutionized how one-liners are used in rap music. Sure, a lot of them are silly, but a lot of them hit very hard, and just the emphatic nature of how he delivered them, you see that a lot nowadays. And I'm glad Anthony mentioned it. All the mixtapes he dropped in tandem with his albums really changed his legacy. A lot of people love that side of Wayne even more than, the more well-known The Carter series side of Lil Wayne.
His highlights are what his highlights are, and, his impact is what it is. It's undeniable. Lupe Fiasco, one of the greatest rappers out of Chicago and one of the most talented high-concept rappers out there.
Lupe, man, I really feel like I have missed out on a lot of his stuff. I definitely need to go back and listen to it. He also, to me, has just been nothing but impressive when I have heard him, thinking specifically of his verse on Touch the Sky. But Lupe, definitely need to be getting into him in the future. I'm not going to deny him a spot on this list, though.
MF Doom. A lot of people on this channel know and love MF Doom, influential to many young rappers that are, more left field today. And yeah, I mean, that's just...
I have only heard Mad Villainy, and that album alone, to me, is enough to guarantee him a spot on this list. His flow is untouchable. The way he revolutionized how rap figures are now a character. They have their own persona, this kind of change in their charisma when they're performing, but also how they portray themselves to their fans. MF Doom, incredible. I'm very much looking forward to hearing his other albums. I'll be reacting to Food pretty soon, but yeah, love that guy.
Mos Def, I think one of the best conscious and more backpack type rappers, as people might used to refer to it, of the 2000s.
Mos Def has always been really woke to me, and I know Anthony just said something along those lines, but I just love how he would always say what he wanted to say. He didn't care about what it made people think. He just had his own opinions, and most of the time they were pretty spot on, especially when you look at today.
Nas, Nasty Nas, I think it's pretty self-explanatory why he is
no
on
explanation
this list.
Needed.
Catalog, the relevance, everything kind of speaks for itself. Nicki Minaj, great talent, great style. Obviously paved the way for a lot of women rappers today, and in much the same.
Nicki Minaj. With Nicki Minaj, I am kind of biased for her actually, just because she is part of that whole Young Money crew that Wayne started, and I love those people. But I honestly don't enjoy her music very much. I kind of feel like she does a lot of riding trends, and her music has been popularized based upon that. And I'll admit she does ride trends very well in that she adapts to the current music landscape pretty quickly, but I don't think she's ever brought very much new to the table besides being a woman rapper.
Pusha T, one of the greatest coke rappers out there of all
hmm
time. Clips. A lot of people love that Daytona record, what he's successfully done with good music as well.
Pusha T, man, of course, should be on here. I talked about kind of how Freddie Gibbs revolutionized that street style. Pusha T is probably the other half of that. He has one of the best diss tracks of all time. He is ruthless. Him and Kanye are one of the best rapper producer duos in the modern era, I think. And his flow and lyricism is pretty untouchable for rappers today.
Raekwon, who I think is the last Wu-Tang rapper we have in this list. Quite a bit of Wu-Tang representation, but I mean, you can't really deny Only Built for Cuban Links. You can't really deny how influential his contributions to
Raekwon, pretty similar backup for Ghostface. You can make a argument for him being the best off of Wu-Tang, and I have also never heard a bad feature from this guy. Great artist.
certainly a lot of influence when it comes to drug raps, mafioso rap, kingpin rap, which is still a super relevant theme today. Rock Him, Rock Him, Eric B. and Rock Him. Some of the greatest hip hop records of the 80s, and like Eric Sermon, who I was talking about earlier.
Haven't heard any of Rakim stuff, but I've heard so many people arguing for him being a top three rapper of all time that I wouldn't dare not put him on this list. Ride, Scarface, and Slick Rick, I haven't heard much of. I have heard This Can't Be Life with Scarface because Kanye produced it, but definitely three rappers that I believe are very prevalent. Wouldn't deny them a spot on the list, but I just don't feel qualified to speak on their names.
Snoop Doggy Dogg. I think Snoop's influence, his style, his flow, his everything is, making him worthy of a spot here for sure. T.I., one of the
Snoop Dogg has a very inconsistent discography, which I think really hurts his legacy. But I mean, the guy is just such a figure. I mean, he is one of the most iconic hip hop songs of all time, and he has been able to stay relevant for such a long time.
the Kings of the South. Would trap music even be what it is today without T.I.? Most likely no. And finally, Tyler, the Creator, the final name and the last kind of modern name on the list as well. What Tyler's brought to the genre in terms of musical diversity, versatility, and the way that he's kind of revolutionized the ethos of the style too, of this online DIY ethos, and how that's kind of intersected with so many.
I'm pretty surprised to see Tyler on this list actually, but I'm glad he is. His albums obviously are just so incredibly different from really anybody, anything that we've heard before, but you can't deny how great they are. And Tyler has really just been an oddball, but in a good way. Without going super deep into it, I don't think much more needs to be said than that.
Thank you for watching. I know this has been a long and a big video.
Well, yeah, that was Fantano's list. Now, obviously, I didn't know all the names on the list, but there were a couple that I did know at least enough about to think that there were at least two names that I have in mind that I would have liked to see on the list over them, and that is Kid Cudi and Travis Scott. Now, before you go and think that that's ridiculous, I would like to point out that a lot of these rappers' older styles might give them an edge over Cudi and Travis Scott, but if you think about the future, right, and how hip hop is going to be sounding 10 years from now, Kid Cudi and Travis Scott are going to be the grandfathers of that sound. It's kind of how we look at people like Jay-Z, Biggie, and Nas in the current generation. They really brought in that sound and pioneered it. That's going to be what Cudi and Travis Scott do for the genre. And I think that alone is enough to guarantee them a spot on a list like that, but also they are very good at what they do. I think production-wise, they changed the game, but also mood-wise, and they changed rap into a style of music that puts you in a psychedelic state, which is a great way to experience that kind of music. I'm very glad of what they've done for the genre, but the biggest thing that I got from this video is that I'm not that educated in the grand scheme of things about these rappers' discographies, what they've done, and I think I need to go back. This video has inspired me to start a new series. Obviously, I'm in the early stages of my channel, but I'm going to start reacting to older albums by these great rappers that I don't know that much about. So if you did notice a name that I didn't know a lot about on this list and you have an album by them you really like, I'd really appreciate if you would comment what that album is, and I'll definitely put it on the list to react to it and just give my thoughts once I've heard the album. If you also enjoy my content, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. I talk about hip-hop music, a lot of the current figures, but obviously in the future I'll be talking about the past ones as well. But that's going to be doing it for now. I really appreciate you tuning in with me today for this rather long video, but thanks, and I'll see you next time.